Sunny and 25 degrees in downtown Kitchener, I'm Matthew Kang with a CBC News Update. So this is for like a news update, and I only have 1 minute to like do all the stuff.
Oh.
Wow. So it's timing down here, and like I can kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
And then when you get towards the end, it starts to look urgent, and then at 5 seconds you'll start to hear.
Oh.
And then that's when you know you have to be out, or else like you're kind of screwed. So I started out breaking in high school in London, and I guess at that time, and I would say probably still now, a lot of people would say like, oh, your style's really fast, right? And so this guy he was a graph writer, and he was like, you know, I feel like when you do a 6-step, it's like you're doing 12 instead of 6. Like you're doing double the amount that a normal person would. And so he just started calling me that. Like he's just like, yo, 12-step. Like, and we didn't know there was like a move called 12-step or whatever. She just thought it was cool, and he just started calling me that. And he was like a really nice guy. He like even like made like a sweater with the graph of like 12-step on it or whatever. And so it just kind of stuck. You know, so I went by that for a couple of years. And then once I realized like, oh, there's a lot of people who think that there's a move called 12-step. So it's kind of whack if you're like, yo, I'm B-boy windmill. So then this other guy from the States, this other B-boy, he would just, whenever he saw me, he would just be like, yo, 12, like just to keep it short.
Who was
it was Chaos. It was a guy named Chaos from, I think, Rochester or Buffalo, like that sort of tri-state area. So it was, yeah, he would, you know, we would see each other at jams, and he'd just be like, yo, 12. And it just kind of caught on. And then I kind of liked how it was sort of anonymous, you know what I mean? Like it's like that character from Star Trek, like I'm 7 of 9, you know, like, you know, and like it's just sort of that anonymity that you have with that name, you know. My mom would make me go to like school dances because she would think, you know, she would make me go to school dances because she was really afraid of me being really antisocial and not being able to get along with people. And I know that's weird, like, because like an Asian parent would normally not want their kid to go to school dances. They just want them to do homework and stuff, right? And so I would go, but then I was just kind of stuck because I was too shy to ask girls to dance, and I couldn't do anything else, and so I would just kind of be, you know, like stuck with all the people at the back of the gym. Yeah. You know, you're just kind of waiting till the night's over. And then this one time, like Rapper's Delight or Run DMC came on, everyone got hype. I was like, what is going on? And you know, it looked like a fight was about to break out. Like that's the way it looked. Wow. And so I was drawn to it, and then, you know, I would ask somebody like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, people are breakdancing. And then I kind of like got a little bit of a glimpse, and it was one of those things where like you're looking over 4 people's shoulders to try to see what's happening. And I just remember like legs flying in the air and people going on their heads and like just all this stuff I'd never seen before, and I was just like, just in awe, you know. I was like, oh man, that looks really dope. Like I wish I could do something like that. So I went to U of T. I went to school for political science and French and German. And I picked U of T partly because I wanted to leave London and see something bigger, but also because towards the end of high school I was like really getting involved in like the Toronto B-boy scene. I used to be in a crew called Crazy Ghost Crew, was like the first crew, and then we teamed up. Crazy Ghost Crew. There was these Taiwanese guys, and it was like, it sounds funny in English, but in I guess in Mandarin or Taiwanese, like it had like a dope meaning, and so they went with it. Yeah. And so I was practicing with these guys a lot, and also Kaboom from Ill at Will. Like we were all kind of in the same crew. And then they knew these guys in Toronto called BRT, and I think it was like Breaking Revolution Toronto or something. There's all these Korean dudes. and like Korean and Chinese guys. And then, you know, we all kind of knew each other, or we started practicing with each other, and then we just became close. And then we decided to make one crew, and we called it Tripline. And the reason for that was nobody really knew who we were, and so we were kind of like, we thought it's kind of like those trip lines, like the wires that, you know, you walk in the jungle and you hit it and then it just explodes on you. Like that was kind of the idea. So it's like we're unknown, but we're gonna like blow up on you, and that was kind of the idea. And so we started to get known as Tripline because we kind of like started to make a name for ourselves in Toronto. And so by the end of like senior year, I was like going to battles and stuff like that. So then I figured, well, okay, I got accepted to U of T, so it just makes sense to like to go to Toronto and study Toronto breaking, and you know, so kind of a dual education. Sort of. The time that I was getting in, it was a good time because I had already kind of developed some contacts. I already knew some people. One of the main people that really taught me a lot in that period was Puzzles, like Savio from Supernaturals, because you know, I think one time like somebody was really hating on him on an internet forum or something, and I didn't even know him that well, but I just really liked what I saw. I liked his style a lot, and he really, you know, inspired me. And I just thought, you know, this guy's being whack. I need to defend. You know, this is stupid. Why is this person talking so much about it? This is, you know, like way back in internet when internet trolls were like a new thing. And so I just felt this need to, you know, go and write something. And he saw it, so I would go and practice with him and got to know him better, and we became good friends. And he just opened up like a lot of names, a lot of people in terms of like who I should watch and what styles I should study and how I should put things together, and really like the Toronto way of doing things, because you know, he learned from a lot of the great Toronto B-boys too, right? So he had a lot of knowledge, you know, passed on to him, so then he would kind of help me out, right?
Wow, that's sick.
Yeah, so it was a nice kind of legacy type of thing, although, but it wasn't for me to boast about it. It was just I genuinely didn't know how to break. One of the first things he taught me was you want to make your footwork so good that it can hold its own, you know what I mean? So in the sense that sometimes you're coming up against guys who are not really that skilled or whatever, and so for those rounds you could just do just footwork, and like just your footwork is nasty enough to beat like whatever tricks or whatever this guy's doing because he's not clean, right? So that was one thing. I'd say another thing is like how to put stuff together, you know, how to make things flow and make sense and kind of tell a story rather than just disjointed moves. Because a lot of people would just kind of go in 6-step and then halo or you know, hollow back, and there was like no, you know, it's like if I'm telling you a story, it's like if I were to tell you a proper story, it would be like, you know, the fox jumped over the lazy dog and then went under the fence. And, you know, there's a certain flow or rhythm to how a story is told, but these people would be like fox, dog, fence. Like it's just there's no things. It's just kind of random words that get put together. And so he really showed me how to make things flow in and out. So a lot of good transitions and that sort of thing. The other thing was about like how to figure out how to be complex. You know, like how to break in a way that, you know, people are just like, I don't understand what just happened, but that was crazy. Like that was kind of I would say a big Toronto trait as well. Yeah. Was like you really, you know, people were really priding themselves or their crews on how original they were, right? It wasn't about like how many headspins you could do or windmills you could do or whatever. It was like, can you bring something that nobody has ever seen before, right? And so everyone, you're really in a lab, you know, like you're really testing out new weapons. It's like in warfare, right? Like if you showed up, you know, everybody's fighting each other with like swords and shields, and then you come along with a bow and arrow and you're just taking people out from far away. Yeah. Then it's like, what do you do to that? And then, so then those people make bows and arrows, and the next thing you're making catapults, and then they make ballistas, and then you're making like artillery shells, and they're making like rapid fire machine guns. Like it's just, that's kind of the mentality that we had back then, was to really like develop things and then bring them out and just be like, what's up, right? And then, you know, a lot of times people just couldn't deal, right? Because if you had a creative mind, you could just blow things away, you know, and that was kind of the Toronto ethos, I would say. I still try to break at least 2 to 3 times a week, maybe like an hour to 2 hours every time I break. Yeah. I mostly break by myself because given my schedule, I can't really reach practices at UW anymore. Like when I worked in TV, I had a more 9 to 6 kind of schedule, so at night I could go and join them, but now I work 2 to 10, so it's kind of hard to do that. I don't battle as often as I used to, but you know, here and there, once in a while I'll feel that need to enter something, you know, but for the most part I'm not like, oh man, this jam's coming, I gotta train. You know, it's not like back then. In terms of balancing it, I mean, the job creeps into your personal life so much, right? Like when you're, especially when you're in news, because you know, even when you go home, it's like you can't not read the news. You know, you have to keep up with it, and so even when I'm here and I'm reading and knowing what's going on, then after, sometimes you have to go to events and talk to people and get more news that way, or get scoops on stuff. And sometimes people are calling you or emailing you after hours or telling you about stuff, and so it's not like free time, it's just a time when you don't have imminent work to do. It's kind of how I would describe the life, right? But you know, I figure, I mean, I don't watch a lot of movies, I don't go and drink, I don't do a lot of these things, so at least those, you know, those hour or 2 hours that you have here and there, you can use to break or go to the gym or whatever. And that's how I manage it. It's just so much a part of just who I am, and just my thinking process, and I would also say just the way I approach creative projects. So I mean, kind of that b-boy mentality, especially like a Toronto b-boy mentality of being original, coming up with a new angle or a new idea, fresh way to do it, a way that nobody's seen before. Like these things really translate well into journalism because it's so competitive and you're trying to get attention and you're trying to present similar facts or whatever in a new way that no one has seen before, and especially now with the internet, right? Like you can really get creative in the way that you tell a story, and I think that b-boying has really helped me in that, because you know, it's forced me to always be inventive and think of new ways to break or divide your moves or whatever. So I would say it's that. It's just a huge creative outlet, and it's, you know, if I don't break, then I feel like my news reporting gets worse. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, they kind of work hand in hand in that way. So I feel like I have to keep breaking in order to keep your mind going. There are two main crews I braked with out there. Was TNT crew out of they're out of like Dusseldorf and Cologne, and then another crew is Nintendo crew. So those were that was the first group that sort of, you know, I got to know them, and it was just pure by fluke. And the guy that connected me to like TNT was Rafa. And we all became good friends, and actually my German improved a lot just because I was hanging out with them so much, and they would, you know, show me the scene, and we'd battle together, and yeah, it was a fun time. I don't think I've ever battled that much until I got to Germany. Like it was like every 2 weeks there's a battle, and you know, you just kind of have to enter, right? So, but it made me appreciate Toronto a lot. Battling out there really felt like a sport. Toronto feels more like it's almost like competitive art, you know what I mean? It's like you have something and you're showing it, and it's about like the, you know, the artistic sort of like aesthetic values are really held important. Not to say that those aren't important in Germany, but I really felt breaking in Germany, a lot of it was kind of like, oh yeah, you can do 10 head spins, well I'll do 15, you know, or like I'll do that, yeah, and it just kind of felt like it narrowed down to that. Although I think the reason why I liked breaking with Nintendo and TNT was because they weren't like that. It was a great scene. I mean, there's a lot of good dancers, a lot of jams, and then you have easy access to everywhere else. You know, we would go to like Belgium, or you could go to France, or you could go to wherever, trains, yeah, or do like ride shares. You could just go to different places. It's a tough question. I would say, because I've come across kind of two different definitions of what a well-rounded b-boy is. One is the one that everybody hears about. It's you have your tops, you got your footwork, you got your freezes, you got your power, you got flavor, you got everything, right? And you can do it all. The other explanation which I've heard, which is not as mainstream an explanation but kind of makes sense, is you're complete in yourself. In the sense that yeah, you might not have like 10 air flares and halos or whatever, but you know, you have a little bit of everything, but you're complete in that when you watch a person break and it just seems complete, and it's like it's just a good presentation of whatever it is that person is doing. You want to stand out, like you need to, you know, and I think that's one problem a lot of people are facing now, is that the level is so high and it's so well-rounded, but at the same time, no one really stands out, you know, and that's kind of a problem. And I don't know how to fix that, but you know, it's just, that's what I've been noticing, is like you know, think of all the jams you sit at and you're watching and everyone's just kind of deadpanned, you know, they're not really amazed, even though the person's doing really impressive things, because they're just kind of like, well, I've seen that sort of combo before, you know. So it's harder to stand out because, you know, everyone's so good, but at the same time, when everyone's good, no one's good, you know what I mean? Oh man, so many. I would say one of my biggest inspirations is Richard Engel. He's a reporter with NBC. He's their foreign correspondent, chief foreign correspondent. So he's insane. I mean,
what makes him insane?
He can speak fluent Arabic. He's like, you know, New York, like white guy from the Upper East Side. Basically, his story was he had a feeling that the next big story or stories were going to be in the Middle East. So he went to school in New York and then just moved to Cairo, into Egypt, and just lived there, like just not knowing anybody, taught it, like learned Arabic. He just covered the Iraq War when the second Iraq War broke out, and he just went there, you know, and he got in there, and then it got to the point where he was like the only American journalist left in Iraq when everything was going crazy and the militias were fighting, and you know, it was really not safe to be a journalist in Iraq. And he stayed in there, you know, and he was like the last guy to stay there. And then NBC hired him, and he's just like, anytime there's some crazy conflict, you know, war or whatever, or just big event like that happening, he's there. And he's just, you know, there's footage of him like getting shot at, or, you know, like,
how is he still alive?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's had plenty of those sort of situations happen to him, but he's still doing it, you know, and great reporter, he has all these talents, and it's just, someone like him is a big inspiration, you know. I would say someone who's really open-minded and can see things from different angles and understand how something would come across to the other side. So, you know, if you have a conflict between two very bitter enemies, like you can understand why this person thinks this way and why this person thinks this way, and you're still in the middle of it and you don't really take sides on it. You know, I think that's another quality. Yeah, and I think also just conviction, you know, in the sense that you believe the story is important and you want to share it with other people, and they kind of convince you into listening to it or hearing it or reading it and being like, yeah, that is a great story. Right? And breaking, I would say it's a lot of how you put everything together, and that everything that you do has a certain like flow and makes sense. If you break and you're just doing a bunch of footwork, you get up, go down, do a freeze, get up, go down, do some power, and it's so disjointed, you know, but you're just trying to make people get hype. It doesn't really work. I mean, it might work on some people because they just get so hype off the sheer physicality, but I think a really special b-boy to me is somebody who they just have a way of putting it all together, that every single part makes sense and there's no wasted movement. You know what I mean? Like if you watch like Abstract, you know, the way Abstract breaks, it's just like everything makes sense, and it's also so surprising, right? There's times he pulls out moves I had no idea he could do that kind of stuff, or just comes up with a new way to move some way that you're just like, that just blew my mind, right? Like that's what I look for, you know, like a good flow and that everything makes sense and that it all works together and it looks like it was meant to be that. I really don't know. I mean, I'm probably just gonna keep trying to do it as long as I can. I mean, realistically, there may be a time where I probably can't practice as much anymore. I think it's always going to be part of my life, and it has to be, but I don't know, we'll see. I mean, ideally it would be nice to keep continuing on and just at least, you know, maybe not battle as much anymore, but just at least be able to do it, and to do it at a level that I'm proud of. I look at people like Alien Nest or Po1, and like they're well into their 40s and they're still killing it, you know, or Freeze from Ghost Crew. So those people inspire me a lot because, you know, they keep doing it, and they're really good still, you know what I mean? So it'd be nice to have that, but I don't know, we'll see. I mean, we'll see where this career takes me and how much it demands of me, because I think, you know, the more deeper you get into journalism, it's like the less free time you get, right? So we'll see what happens, but, you know, my hope is I can still keep doing it. I can still live this double life, but, you know, I guess we'll see what happens.